WTBQ.
Good morning. Happy
Monday?
Happy
It's Monday.
I'm like, what is today? It's Monday. Good morning on a snowy Warwick day.
Good morning. I'm Michael Giannetto, licensed mortgage loan originator, residential home funding. Thank you for joining us.
Funding. I like when you do that. And Michael Giannetto, residential home
Yeah, listen, got to put a little twist on it.
And I'm Janine Panarelli, licensed real estate broker and owner of Panarelli Realty in Goshen.
Thank you for joining us this morning on the Home and Mortgage Show on WTBQ.
Yes, WTBQ. If you have any questions while we're on air, 651-1110. We always forget that. I didn't know it was going to snow.
I didn't think it was going to be like this.
I didn't know. We had no school. We get text messaging. Our school sends text messages at like 5:30 in the morning. I'm like fixing my mic. Sorry. And, I get a text message in the morning. I'm like, oh, who wants me this early? It was a school. They closed. I had no idea.
Yeah, well, I'm still, as you know, recovering from being sick, right? So the phone rings at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? The school system has that automated
Your eyes
system.
look a little glassy.
Yeah,
are you on cough medicine or something?
Yeah, here's my Ludens right here.
That doesn't do anything. That's like candy.
I know. I don't like medication. So the phone rings at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? And I pick up the phone. I'm expecting them to tell me some 2-hour delay or close, whatever it is. And there's nothing. Blank message. So nothing, no recording, nothing.
It wasn't an automated school thing?
So I hang up and I see it's them, I see it's the recording number and I hang up, nothing. And then they call back 5 minutes later. So here I was trying to sleep a little bit more. So yeah. So the phone rings a second time with the recording.
I hit the snooze button a lot.
Yeah.
I can't help it. And now we're supposed to get we're in a winter storm watch for Tuesday night into Wednesday.
Yes. All right. So on the way here, I'm thinking to myself, since when did like a half inch of snow become like a major emergency event?
A half inch? Well, if
all
you're
right.
in the Carolinas, I guess.
Call it 2 inches.
If you're living in the South, it does.
If there is one snowflake that comes down, there is a reporter on every corner with a ruler saying, okay, anywhere. You turn on the TV.
Oh, yeah.
Turn on the TV.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a ruler, and they're like, and I'm standing on the corner of, 122nd Street, and they put the ruler in the ground, and it's got a quarter of an inch of snow on it, and they're like, it's coming down bad here, Since when was that a big emergency?
I don't know, but I know in the cul-de-sac where I live, there's a few of my neighbors are up in arms because now in the cul-de-sac that I have, we have sidewalks on half of the cul-de-sac.
Right.
So the village sent out letters to those 4 or 5 people who live on that side of the cul-de-sac with the sidewalk that they are now responsible for maintaining the sidewalk and clearing it of the snow.
Right.
Or they're going to get a fine. Now, we've been living there 13 years, and it's been fine. We've never had any problems. There's nobody walking on the roads except us in the cul-de-sac. Right. So, but the problem now is, being that it's a cul-de-sac, the plows come through, and they plow the snow up and over the sidewalk.
Oh, right.
So who's supposed to clear that?
Right.
So my neighbor was out there yesterday. He's like freaking out. You could see him. We didn't need binoculars. His arms were waving, and I don't know what the heck he was doing, but...
It's a good thing you're watching your neighbors normally with the binoculars.
No, you know what I used to do? When my daughter would go down into the cul-de-sac and play with all the kids, we'd whistle, she'd come up, and sometimes, where's Valerie? You can see, I need glasses, obviously, you see my glasses, but when she's down at the end of the cul-de-sac, we couldn't always see her. So I'd get the binoculars out, and she'd be playing with the kids, and one year, Suzanne, I love you, and I love you boys, but it was funny. One year the kids got a little heated, I guess, in the snowstorm, and we're watching. We're like, oh, look, they're playing in the snow. I'm watching with the binoculars, watching the kids, because I'm up on a hill, so it's I can't just come out of my house and yell to the kids. I'm up higher than everybody else. They're down in the cul-de-sac. I'm on the hill, so we're watching. We're like, oh, wait a minute. What's going on?
They're fighting.
And, we're like, wait a minute. Uh-oh. No, that don't look good. Wait a minute. So now this one's got this one down on the ground, hitting this one, and this one's throwing snow in the other one's face, and now all of a sudden Valerie's got one of the kids down. My daughter's got one of the kids down on the ground. She's beating the crap out of him. I'm going, oh my God, hon, I'm screaming, you gotta get down there. And then we break it up. All the kids are crying. I'm like, oh my God. So sometimes you need the binoculars.
Yeah. So wait, let me ask you a question.
So
At the beginning of that story, you said you would whistle for for your daughter?
Oh, I do the
Can
Brooklyn
you whistle?
Oh, yes, of
Oh,
course
my
I can
God,
whistle.
you
I come
can?
from Brooklyn. How
Oh,
could I not whistle? Yeah. I can whistle very, very loud.
That's
yes,
great.
yes. It's a gift. You know, you be Italian and come from Brooklyn. How do you not know how to
Yeah,
whistle?
I can't.
You
Other than
can't
my,
whistle?
I can't whistle. Not that loud whistle. I can
No,
do that.
I
I do
can't.
this dog whistle that my whole family knows. That if I need my wife, she's halfway across the mall, and I do it.
No, we do it. Well,
she'll know.
If my husband's in the, we go, you know, one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But no, outside it's
Yeah, the
you know,
big whistle.
the big whistle. Yeah, I have that gift,
Yeah.
that ability.
I don't know if that's a gift, but
But now, so now in the Village of Florida, they have to maintain that sidewalk. So what do they do when the plows come through and that plow puts that whole mound of snow on that sidewalk? Well, like, how am I going to get rid of the snow? So
well,
it's
listen,
going to be
that's good.
interesting to
That's
see
good
what
for the
develops.
listeners. If you live in
Yeah.
a village where
Yep.
there's sidewalks, or even a town,
But how do
and
you-
there's sidewalks, then you should probably assume
it's
that you're
kind of like
responsible
trying
to
to
clear
get out
them.
of your driveway after the plow came through and they plow in the end
Yeah,
of your
the-
driveway.
yeah.
Well, now put
That's
that on
very
your
annoying.
sidewalk. How are you going to get that off?
That's very
You can't do that. So it's
Use
going to be
your-
interesting.
use
This is
your,
a new
snowblower.
development. New development. We found out over the weekend. So we I don't want to talk about the Super Bowl. I was going to, but it was too depressing.
Oh, listen,
it was a joke.
Listen, I had the worst numbers, right? But the
I had no numbers.
opening play changed changed every
He was
pool
like,
on the planet.
Whoops! There goes the ball.
Yeah, it changed that safety, changed the pool for everybody, changed the numbers. So I had 5-0, right? Seahawks, Broncos.
Okay.
And going toward the end of the quarter,
Yes.
it was 5-0, right?
Okay.
So I needed it to stay
Yes,
where
it
it
was. Yes.
Right? So I wanted a turnover before any score, right? And all of a sudden there was the interception that came at the end.
Yeah.
And then they went in, they just let the time run out.
Yeah.
I was so bad. I was jumping up and down. It was a good pool, actually.
I'm not that big into football. I watch it for the commercials, which I was highly disappointed. I was.
Yeah, it wasn't a good
except for
game.
the
It wasn't a good
Clydesdale
game.
with the dog with the adoption. That was they saved
Yeah,
it till the
yeah, that
end,
was a
and
good
they
one.
saved
That
it
was a
till
good
the
one.
end. That was really good. But other than that, I was disappointed. Bruno Mars, love him. That
Yeah,
was really
great
good. Except
show.
I could have done without the Red Hot Chili Peppers and his stockings or whatever the heck he had on his feet and his no shirt on.
Yeah,
And
listen,
I could have done
a
without that. But how do you not love
middle-aged
Bruno
band
Mars?
coming out with no shirts on
I
and
love the way
jumping
Bruno was
around.
dancing.
Yeah, it was good.
He was like a James Brown kind of all over.
Yeah,
I
he's
love
a
that.
talented dude.
He was. So that
He
was
really
good. But I don't watch that. I'm a hockey gal. You know, give me a good Ranger game and I'll beat you up if you're sitting next to me rooting for the other team. I get a little physical.
Funny, I didn't see you like that.
I get a little physical.
Little sarcasm.
I get a little physical. Yeah. So that we're actually we have a guest today. He's stuck in the snow. He's on his way in. Michael McCann from O'Keefe and McCann in Goshen. So Mike, if you're listening to us on the radio, just drive slow. Be careful. The roads are pretty slippery out there. So
Yeah, they're not great. And actually,
be in
one
a
more
little while.
little story before we dive into some stuff. But on the way here, I'm following a plow the entire way. There's a plow in front of me, right? And I'm coming into that's through the town of Warwick. I get to the
license
village.
plate number.
Yeah. No, listen.
He's
I
upset.
see the village sign, and the
You
plows
just
go up. The plows go up, and the guys, I'm following them into the rest of the village to come to the radio station. And the plows go up. Like, all right, I get it. There's liability.
Yeah.
There's something, but
It's
you know,
accumulating.
help your brother out a little bit. There's nothing there. There's nothing that
help
he's going to
the
hit.
brother out.
There's nothing he's going to hit. Clear the rest of the way into the village for the guy.
Okay.
So here, everybody is driving behind this guy. Everybody's driving through the muck, and because he has to lift it to go into the village.
Well, hey, what are you going to do? It is what it is, Michael. You made
I
it
know,
on time.
I know.
There's other things in the world bigger than that to sweat
Yes,
over.
you're
So
right.
just, it's all good. So
I have
we're going
complaints.
to, you have issues is what you have.
Yeah, where's
We're
the
gonna-
suggestion box?
We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
Quality and professionalism are two words that describe Ultra Home Inspections. Fully licensed, certified, and insured. Their training and skill will provide you with all the information you'll need to make an educated decision on your home purchase or sale. Ultra Inspections serves Orange and Sullivan counties in New York and Pike and Wayne County in Pennsylvania. Call 845-545-0960 or check out all their services by visiting their website at www.ultrahomeinspections.com. Master Pest Control is proud to be a sponsor of the Home and Mortgage Show. When the time comes to buy a house, you will be faced with a lot of important choices. Having a home inspection is a critical part of the process, so choose wisely. Masters Pest Control has over 30 years of residential pest control experience, and they work closely with Ultra Home Inspections. That means you get 2 inspectors for the price of 1. Better value, exceptional service. Consider Masters Pest Control. Call toll-free 877-656-2024. That's 877-656-2024.
Hi, this is Benoit Turpin with Pleasant Stone Farm. Please join me for my half-hour program called Living Green, Living Healthy, and Supporting Your Local Community. Mondays at 12:30 p.m. See you then.
Listen for Almanac and your host, Paul Tesoro. Almanac is proudly brought to you by Central Hudson Gas and Electric Corporation. That's Almanac, Monday through Saturday mornings during the 9 o'clock hour. WTBQ.
WTBQ.
And we're back. This is Janine Panarelli. I'm here with Mike Giannetto of the Home and Mortgage Show on WTBQ.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us once again.
Our guest just got here, so we're going to welcome Michael McCann from O'Keefe and McCann. He's an attorney in Goshen. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
How was it? How are the roads?
A little messy.
A little messy?
A little messy.
Were you sliding?
It took me about an hour to get here from Port Jervis, which I did not expect, so I apologize for being late.
Oh my gosh. Do you have four-wheel drive?
I have a Volkswagen, yeah. It's got good traction.
Good traction.
The all-wheel drive, right? That's
Yes.
what the all-wheel drive.
Yeah, it's accumulating. I like that word. It's accumulating.
So
All right,
this is Michael McCann of O'Keefe and McCann, located in Goshen. Thank you for joining us once again, Mike.
You're welcome.
We were just chewing the fat a little bit about our weekend events and things that went on before we dove into today's topic was going to be short sales.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
My favorite
And it's
topic.
not short
And it's
to
not,
talk about by any means.
No, and it's not short from beginning to end either. There's nothing short about short sales
There
except
is-
on the bank side.
That is true.
Yeah.
There's nothing short about that. But I was looking up some interesting stats from last year. Now, when I give you these numbers, this is just for single-family residents, having nothing to do with multifamilies or anything else. Single-family residents in our MLS. Okay, so that's not dipping into other areas. We have currently now over 430 short sales on the market.
Wow.
Yeah. We have 265 additional short sales under contract. Okay. And last year, 287 were closed short sales. So, I mean, we still have a lot that we're dealing with
So
short
this
sales.
is
It's not over. It's
would
not
you think
over.
a lot of this is because people they just got around to it, or like what would be the reason why in 2014 or the end of 2013 there's so much more of a glut? You know
what it is? People are always waiting to see what's going to happen, what guidelines are going to change, and anything that might just save them. They wait for the last minute. But what was happening was the banks were lax in the beginning. Well, first of all, we had people panicked in the beginning. That's what happened. People panicked. Then as time went on, then banks got more, they don't want to foreclose. So they were forcing people. They were saying, look, that's a last resort. Put your house on the market for a short sale, and let's see if we can sell it for a short sale. They don't want to own the property. They don't want to be, property owners. They don't want to have to foreclose. It costs them too much money. They don't want to have to get involved in that. But they were giving people the option to do the short sale. If that didn't work, then we can do a deed in lieu. But what was happening was, as people were starting to realize that they could, with all the publicity on the short sales and all the strategic, planning, people were starting to say, okay, well, I could stay in my house for a year or so, not pay my
Right, not pay the
mortgage.
mortgage. Right, that's what they were
pocket
planning.
the money, because if we leave right away, then number one, where are we going to go? We don't have the money to go anywhere. A lot of people lost their job. By the time they got their job back, it was, let's hang out for a while and see what happens. Once people realized, me and Mike do a lot of this, so once people realized that there was that Mortgage Debt Relief Act, where if it was your primary residence, so how the short sale works, well, we have to back up, I guess, a little bit. When you owe more on your mortgage than your house is worth, you put your house on the market for a short sale. And let's say you owe $250 on your house, but your mortgage is $250, but the house is only worth about $200,000. You get an offer about $200,000, and now you have to take that offer to the bank and say, look, I know I owe you $250,000. We can only get $200,000. Can we do a short sale? And we have to submit all this paperwork, all this goods. Look at Michael, he's ready to pass out because we do it all the time. There's a whole package, there's a whole process that we have to follow in order to get the bank to say, okay, we know you owe $250. We know it's only worth $200. We'll take the $200, call it a day, but we're going to give you a 1099 for that $50,000 difference that you owe.
Right. So just to explain to some people that may not know what a 1099 is.
Well, I was getting to that.
Just trying to pick you
That's
up here.
the love letter that the IRS
Yes,
sends you at the end
I
of the
love
year.
that. A love letter. A love letter. Yes. That's
For Valentine's
income.
Day, usually.
Yes, around Valentine's Day. It's perfect timing.
Yeah, so go ahead.
So it's
Continue.
income. It's actually a form of income that they're imputing back on a consumer for that relief of that particular debt.
So depending upon
Or
what tax
cancellation of that
bracket
debt.
you were in, so if you get a $50,000 1099, you don't owe the IRS. I feel like we're all in this
Toys R
together.
Us.
Yeah. So on a $50,000, you'd owe like $15,000. So could you imagine? Now you lost your job, you sold your house at a short sale, and now you get hit with this additional bill on this
Right.
phantom income that you never really earned. So in 2007, they passed the Mortgage Debt
Right.
Relief Act that as long as it was your primary residence, you take that 1099, you give it to your accountant, and I think they file it with like a 982. There's a form that they file with that wipes that out.
Right.
So that you don't have to pay the tax on that 1099. And it's been that way, we're in 2014, so it's been like that for 6 years. Well, now this past December 31st, that expired. Now, last year, 2012, going into 2013, it did expire. But then by the middle of January, second week of January, they extended it again. So everybody was like, phew, all right, so at least if we do a short sale and I get a 1099, I don't have to pay that tax. But now we're right back in that same boat. And now this is the first week of February, and they have not extended that.
Right.
That expired.
you know what,
didn't
And it does not apply to a commercial property.
Right.
Where if you own, it has to be your principal
It
residence.
has to be
so
your
if you're an
principal
investor or it's a rental property or a
Multifamily,
second
yeah,
home
second
or
home,
something
vacation.
along those lines, it doesn't apply.
It doesn't
No,
apply anyway.
exactly. So what do you do?
So, I think a huge point to bring up is you're saying there's 265 short sales under contract,
Under contract
right
now, just single family, yeah.
Right. That,
Well, those
that-
have probably been
who
under
knows?
contract since
For-
2012.
Hey,
Which
I
is
have a
exactly
record.
excuse me, which is exactly my point. Here's people that were going through this process early on. They were under contract. They're expecting to close. And now in
Right.
2014, if it's not extended, wham, they're going to get smacked with this 1099 income.
Yeah.
Potentially,
that is
yes.
not a good situation for them.
And what do we do?
We don't know what
It's
to do.
a sit
at
and
this
wait game.
point.
There's nothing we can do.
I think you guys should mention, and I think, Janine, you've mentioned it before, that short sales, you've been working on short sales even prior to the recession and prior to the crisis. That
Yes.
you've been doing this a very long time. Mike,
Very
I'm
long
sure
time.
the same
We've been
for you as well.
doing them together, me and Mike. Yeah, he does some, I do some. It's just it was okay, and now we're like, well, now what do we do? And now you have a lot of homeowners that are like, well, then I'm not going to short sale my home. I'll just walk away. If I'm going to get hit with a 1099 and I'm going to pay all the tax on this, then why do a short sale? So
Well, they
it's-
can
we're
still
in
do the same thing with the deficiency judgment if they walk away and do the foreclosure, no?
No, not quite as easily, no. This is, that would have to be wiped out through some other mechanism like a bankruptcy. or something along those lines, which we could probably spend a whole nother hour on.
Right,
at
I'm
some point
sure.
in time.
Oh, sure.
What are you going to do? That's the way it goes. So they get a 1099. So before the Mortgage Debt Relief Act, though, people were, trying to work things out with the bank, but the bank could come after you with a deficiency judgment, and then what do? So they hit you with a $50,000 instead of a 1099. Now you're getting hit with a $50,000 judgment. And I know banks that did do that. I know now not so much. I mean, they are, but.
Can I tell you?
Compared to
Can I
back
tell you?
then?
I have a client that is in Florida, right? That I did her one of her
In the
mortgages
state of
years
Florida
ago.
or
In the
in the
state of
village?
Florida,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, state of Florida. I did her mortgage on a purchase years ago. She had another house that she was trying to get rid of for a long time, and she short sailed it, $75,000. They negotiated back and forth. They gave her a promissory note.
Yes,
Okay.
they were doing that too.
$75,000 that she's paying $150 a month, probably for the rest of her life.
We did a few of those years ago, back
she
in
still has
07,
it.
08.
Yes, she still has it.
They were doing promissory notes, no interest. They
Right.
gave it to my client interest free. They just wanted, all right, you owe us $35,000. This one was $35,000, and they gave him he signed a promissory note, $35,000, interest free. It was like $50 a month for like forever.
I haven't seen that in quite some time.
No, me too.
Yeah, this is a
Me
few
too,
years
but
back.
this goes
I've
back.
done one or two, but we're going back 3 years.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
at least. Yeah,
Yeah.
at least 3 years.
And
The last promissory note I had signed was about 5 years ago. Yeah.
The real issue with short sales is it's a price differential. They bought the houses at the peak of the market, and it's not going away anytime in the near future. You know, these numbers that we're seeing, in my estimation, are only going to either stay the same or increase as we move forward. The market is correcting slightly. Janine can address that.
Yeah.
But what they bought it for and what they're in arrears for at this point isn't going to change because
Right.
they bought
No.
in 2006, 2005 when the market was artificially
we dropped
inflated.
35%, and
Well,
you're not going
and
to
especially
appreciate
if they're
that
not
much.
making payments, their interest is accruing way faster than,
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
than that appreciation.
Yeah. But the bigger problem that we're having too now, well, I mean, Mike and I do this every day. So what's happening is, so when you're in a short sale situation and you submit an offer to the bank, all right, we have a buyer, we're going to submit it to the bank for, to do the short sale process. That bank does, now we're not talking about the buyer and their mortgage bank. That's something
Right,
separate.
separate.
We're talking about the short sale bank. They send an appraiser to the house. Sometimes not an appraiser, sometimes it's a realtor doing a price opinion. And they go back to the bank and say, okay, well, we think this house is worth X. Now, a lot of times you have people out there who, I won't go into it as to why, but sometimes they come back with this number that Mike and I are like, what the?
Astonished is the
Yeah,
word
all right.
we're looking for.
Thank you for the bleep. We were going to need a bleep. I don't know if Frank was paying attention. I caught myself. But so I know the house is worth 70 condos. Even this applies to condos and townhomes and too. So we know it's only worth 75, 80,000, and they come back with 100, 110, and we're like, in what lifetime are you going to get $110,000 for this unit? It's not happening.
But
So-
do you see that more? I'm gonna guess that you see that more when it's a BPO versus an appraisal.
Yeah, because they're doing that more than they're having a licensed appraiser go out.
Right.
Not necessarily.
On mine,
Really?
on mine they are.
You're
Not
seeing that with the
necessarily.
appraisals too?
Yes, we are.
Oh,
Absolutely
my
seeing it with
gosh.
appraisers as well.
You
Yeah,
know,
we did have that. Yeah,
just
we
from the
have.
lending side though, by nature, a lot of these appraisers are skittish.
Well, they're nervous.
They're nervous.
Yeah.
And usually they're coming in
nervous.
conservative. So for me to hear that they're coming in more aggressive on these things, it
But
tells
now-
me that there might be a little bit more value in these.
No, nice try.
I agree. Nice
You
try.
agree with me?
Yes.
Thank you.
No,
Yeah,
I
nice
will
try.
argue that to the end of the day.
Well,
Because these are, again, the appraisers are very skittish. They want to be kept on these lists. They don't want to be on any blacklist of any lender. And,
well,
and
that's
if they
wrong.
come in,
Then they're not doing their job.
Mike,
I
have-
agree. I agree with that.
I see
have
your point,
people.
but no.
We have people that we have contested the appraisal on, Going back to the bank and showed them the comps. We've showed them the condition of the property. They want $200,000 and the property is worth 80, and we have a present offer for 80, and everything supports
true.
80.
It's true.
And the bank and the investor simply says, we want what we want. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that on the other end of the phone.
Really?
And it is completely infuriating and frustrating for us because we've spent sometimes a year or
Just a
more
year? Yeah.
getting the property to this point where we can submit what we believe is the highest and best and most valid offer, only to be told by someone in an
but a
ivory
lot of
tower
times-
somewhere that they're not going to approve what we, as the people on the ground,
As the professionals
know.
in our area, this is it too. We have
Correct.
some people that aren't even from our area
Right.
putting values on our properties. And some of them, they go into a property, sometimes it's just a drive-by, so they're not even going into the property. And when they do go into a property, they're just sketching out, this floor has this many rooms. They're not looking at the work that needs to be done. We had one, we're working on one now, Mike and I, where we actually had a contractor go in, and he had to itemize everything that was wrong that needed to be done with the estimate of the cost of what those repairs were going to be, and we submitted it to the
For a
to the
203K
bank.
loan? Was that for a
Yeah,
203K?
just in general, because it was just that bad. The bank was just out of control. They wanted $180,000 for something that's clearly only worth like $120,000, $130,000, and we have to fight it. Does the bank respond? Sometimes, but we're going to get further into that because we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
See you right.
Yep.
Happy New Year! Now celebrate by gifting yourself and your family with a new kitchen and let the professionals at Hudson Valley Kitchen Design take your dreams and make them into a reality, from concept to installation and everything in between. Our well-trained, courteous staff will customize your new kitchen while keeping it within your budget. Start living the dream by calling 845-294-8242, and we'll have you cooking on your new stove in no time. For all the do-it-yourselfers, builders, and contractors, we invite you to our retail showroom located at 2713 Route 17M in Goshen. And please like us on Facebook at the Hudson Valley Kitchen Design. Call 845-294-9068. We will make your dreams a reality in 2014.
Hi, this is Dr. Nick Belasco, host of the St. Anthony Community Hospital Roundtable, heard every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 8 a.m. Tune in to hear about the latest in health news from me and my guests here on WTBQ.
I'm Sarah Kearns. Join me for Travels with Sarah on WTBQ 93.5 FM every Thursday at 11 a.m. discussing worldwide travel. Travels with Sarah is brought to you by Atagi Water.
WTBQ weather.
We have a winter weather advisory for today. We'll be snowing all day, and it could come down hard at times. It'll accumulate 2 to 4 inches for the most part. Temperatures into around 30. Tonight, snow will end, becoming partly cloudy overnight and cold in the upper teens. Tomorrow, mostly sunny with a high 30 to 35. Next storm brings snow tomorrow night in the 20s and snow, sleet in the morning. It'll change over to some freezing rain at times in the afternoon. And there could be some moderate to even heavy accumulations. We'll have to watch this one as temperatures reach the low 30s on Wednesday. This is meteorologist Tony Salimo from the WTBQ Weather Center.
WTBQ.
Welcome back to the Home and Mortgage Show with Michael Giannetto and Janine Panarelli.
You're not sure who you are?
Yeah.
Or do you not even want to say who you are?
It was a long weekend.
And welcome back to Michael McCann from O'Keefe and McCann, located in Goshen.
We're talking about short sales, and then during the break we get off on this because there's so much to talk about that frustrates us. And we keep jumping because we're in the business, so we know what topics are going to get us going.
I'd like to back up
know.
actually to 2 years ago, right? What was happening in the marketplace, right? You had the perfect storm. You had unemployment reaching these levels that were unbelievable, right? Which are still high, obviously. You had depreciation. You had two income households dropping to one income household, right? You had all this stuff going on in the marketplace that caused so much mayhem and chaos, and it almost became acceptable for people to do the short sales and walk away in a foreclosure situation or deed in lieu, and because people understood. I think we're climbing out of that a little bit. And
No, people
but there's
still don't get it.
Well, there's still people that are trying to just do it to do it versus the people that needed it.
But that's more of a strategic type of a short
Right,
sale. And
right. That's
I
what we
have to
mentioned
be
before.
honest with you, Mike. I don't know that I've ever had a client, realistically, that has done that. They may not just tell me that that's the case. But the majority of people are really in dire straits.
yeah.
They're facing foreclosure.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do.
It was very emotional for a while too, because as a listing agent of short sales, I would go on the appointment and I'd say I'd have this whole thing that I have to explain to them, walk them through it all, and they would just start crying at the table and say, how, I'm 40 years old, I'm 50 years old, whatever it was, how, did I get. And I tell them, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. And they'd say, I worked my whole life to maintain good credit, and I always paid my bills. How did I get here? And it was really
very
sad.
bad situations happening to good people.
And we
It was
have to look
very
at the
sad.
the
It
3
was.
years before that event happened, when lenders were simply writing blank checks.
Of course,
to people that they shouldn't be.
You fogged the
giving a
mirror,
loan to.
and Wall Street was willing to securitize it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was a problem. So now we have a different problem. What do? It also, my whole thing is, besides now, I go in and I get the listing, but we also have the buyers who think that they're going to get a deal or a steal if they buy a short sale. And that's not the case.
Right. I
These
think a lot
banks
of those
want-
buyers go into that. They think they automatically see short sale, and it's like they think these the dollar signs are lighting
Well,
up, like they're getting such a great deal.
They think
I
because
agree.
see what they're looking at a buyer in distress. The seller. As a buyer, they're looking at it as the seller is in distress. I'm going to get a deal.
Right.
But that's not how it works. If you're a buyer and you're looking at a property that is being sold for short sale, you have to remember and keep in mind that the bank wants fair market value. So you're not going to go in there with this lowball offer. So.
Now, does that depend? I'm sure you've seen it a lot, depending on who the actual holder of the mortgage is, that you see certain ones that'll take a little less than others?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They are all over the map with their guidelines, their interpretation of the federal regulations. There's new federal regulations coming out every single day, it seems.
They keep changing.
They keep changing the rules.
And we have to stay on top of
Right,
it. And
right.
it's difficult because it might change for one bank, but not change for another bank.
I've literally had, and I won't mention the name of the bank, their form set, I had submitted their form set on a Monday, for example. Tuesday or Wednesday, they changed their form set.
Oh,
a month later,
I know who it
they
is.
told me that we had to now comply with their new form set. So I took the old document and the new document and I put it side by side. And the actual content of the document was identical.
The little date on the
The
corner
only
at the
thing that
bottom.
changed was something along that.
In the parentheses,
Correct.
the date had changed.
It gets to that
So
level
frustrating.
of
and they'll kick
silliness.
it back. They'll kick the short sale back.
They'll
Which is
decline it.
so
Something like that.
crazy,
They'll
but-
decline it and make a
But
start from new.
This to me, when I hear this, this to me is people that are on the inside that are push button dummies that just do what they're told and cannot think outside the box and say, hey, you know what? We had the old one. Here's the new one. Here's a property we've had on our books for a year and a half. Let's get it off our books. We have a buyer that we, I mean, come on.
It's really bad.
Use some common sense.
I agree.
We have one that we're dealing with now for 2 years. And it's a first. They
That's
have
absurd.
a first and second mortgage. Keep in mind, a lot of people just didn't have a first mortgage. They have a first and second.
Which just adds to the
Just
joy.
adds
Now,
to
which
the
buyer is
misery.
hanging around for this?
Okay, so we're going to get to that. We're going to get to buyers needing to hang around, but we have where first and second mortgage, sometimes with two different lenders. But we have one where it's the same lender. It's the same, well, I should say servicing company, because it was service released. So we have first and second.
Which means that one bank transferred it to another bank
Right.
for further servicing or handling of picking
Right,
up
so
the
you might have been
mortgage
with Bank of America now, and now you're with another bank, Green Tree or one of the others that they released some of their loans to. So now we send in the documents, and we have to put we have to put the client's name, address, phone number, social security number, loan numbers, all that kind of stuff.
DNA samples.
It's blood, yeah, all that. It's got to be on every single document we submit. So first and second mortgage, we fax it in. Some banks are on a certain platform on the internet where we upload it, we scan it in, and we upload it. And some of them just aren't on that level yet, so we have to fax it in. Now, if you have the first and second mortgage, and we have both loan numbers on every single document, we fax it in. The documents only make their way into one of the loan files.
My God.
So now I
Among
call
other
up,
things.
Yeah, oh,
Right,
yeah.
right. I'm sure that's the
So
least of
I
it,
call
but-
up because you have to be relentless. You call up and you say, okay, did you receive the documents? Well, yes, we see the documents. Okay, what loan number do you see them in? And it was funny because, not funny, but for a while, we didn't know to have them pull up on the computer. I assumed, this was going back a while, that if you have two loan numbers, the set of documents would make their way into both files, so you could see it on both ends. No, that's not the case. So the negotiator, whoever it was collecting these documents, only put it in the one file, the one loan. So
Absurd. That's the
they would
not
co-
thinking
so
outside
now-
the box. Well,
They'd
they
only
can't think
put it in
outside
the
the box
one.
to actually
So now-
call an audible and put it in the other
I'm
one.
There's
trying to
no
get a loan-
independent,
No.
Thinking.
decision making
But
or
come on.
thinking or any of the above.
But I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that you have two loans, so you should put those documents in both files. They didn't do that. So now I would get an email, we're requesting these documents. I said, but I just faxed them to you last week. Well, we need them again. What do you mean you need? All right, so I fax them again. Now this kept going on and on and on, and finally I'm like, wait, something's wrong here. Something's really wrong. And I said to her, all right, what are you looking at? Well, I'm looking at this file. I says, okay, so what about the other file? The loan numbers, there's both of them on the document. Oh, well, no, we only put them in the one file. I said, so you're telling me you have all the documents, you see all the documents, but you want me to send them to you again because you need to put them in the other file? What's wrong here? And then finally I just start freaking out, and I asked for a supervisor. And then the supervisor finally
Should we get
gets
the bleep button ready?
Yeah, well.
So you get the 22-year-old instead of the 18-year-old that's handling your
Oh
file.
my God, yeah.
Somewhere in Minnesota.
I will tell you, when we're working on a refinance for a property, and there is a first and second, and it is with the same company or lender that, well, you believe it's with the same department, and we have to order a payoff from two different phone numbers, two different departments. We have to work with, and Mike, I'm sure you've seen this doing closings. We have to work with two different departments to order that stuff. If we do a subordination, it's not with the same department we're ordering a payoff, or customer service. We have to contact somebody different. It's unbelievable how they do not communicate
No,
within.
there is no communication.
But there's no
It's so
communication within the
ridiculous.
same departments because there are home retention teams at certain lenders. And I can't tell you how many clients I get phone calls from that we're in the middle of a short sale and they'll get automatically generated letters saying, we're now processing your loan modification. Or we're now processing your deed in lieu request.
Yes.
And invariably, they call me up and say, what's going on? And I say, I don't know. Hold on. Let me call
Because
and
we
find
don't
out.
always get the information. They give it to the borrower.
Correct. Directly.
Yeah.
And
so
it doesn't
we're not
come
in the
to
loop.
us.
We're the ones
Right.
working on it the whole time. And now then they get this and they're like, what do I do with this? I'm like, well, fax it over to me. Send it to Mike. and we
My
gotta take a
point
look at this.
being, though, within the same loan context, just one loan, the departments within individual lenders don't know what each other is doing.
No.
So for us to expect that, two different loans, we can't. But it becomes problematic to try to process things.
The bottom line is we have to stay on top of them on a constant basis because now, we've learned over the years on how they respond, don't respond, what they're doing. So we're more proactive. And, okay, we're kind of, correct me if I'm wrong on this, are we not sometimes educating them on the other end?
Often.
Yeah, we're educating them and saying
bank side, you
yeah,
mean.
yeah.
Often. It
And
happens
there
all
are
the time.
times where I called them up and they're like, oh, we need an RMA, and I'm like, oh, you did away with that last February, and the woman at the bank was like, oh, we did. I'm like, yeah, your guidelines changed. You don't need that document anymore. She's like, oh, and when was that? And I had to give her the actual supplemental, the supplemental directive. They put out these. I get an email and it tells me, the change for that month or, for whatever it is. And I'm like, so I guess you didn't get that supplemental directive in your own department.
Right.
I'm like,
I'm shocked and appalled.
Right.
oh, like, okay. And she's like, oh, yeah, okay. I see that now. Okay. Forget that. And I'm like, now, had I not known that, there would have been another step that would have been unnecessary
exactly.
because they don't know their own guidelines.
Involved. It's so crazy.
It's ridiculous. So, but in any event, the good news is we know what we're doing. Mike and I.
Yes.
We know what we're doing. The bank might not know what they're doing, but we know what we're doing. So now we need to just educate the buyer a little bit.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yes.
Because we have buyers going around, they're making offers, they don't understand the process, and then, 2 months later, they're like, oh, this isn't done yet, I want out. It don't work that way.
Any time a buyer is buying any type of a non-traditional real estate transaction, it becomes a problem. If they're buying a foreclosure, the problem becomes the bank wants them to accelerate everything. They don't want to own the property at that point. So they're going to jam this thing literally through
30 days.
In 30 days or less. If you're a buyer getting a mortgage, getting it processed in that length of time, depending on the type of mortgage, may be problematic. So
not over here.
Yeah,
I understand that. That's good to know.
Well, we have you after
We are very
45
nimble.
days. Oh,
Very nimble. We can act very quickly. Our underwriting times are very
one of the
fast.
other
But the
prob-
big lenders, they'll never get it done in time.
One of the
Oh, wait. Did I say that out loud?
Michael.
One of the other problems we have with short sales, though, is keeping a buyer on the hook and them knowing when to apply for their mortgage, because we can't give them, as the processor of the short sale, a very clear answer as to when that's going to happen.
Yeah,
it could happen
want
in
time
30
frames.
days if all the stars and moon and sun align.
Yeah. I know. Well, we're going to get into that and tell them exactly what we require, at least, when we come back.
My name is Francis Goodman, and we're here at my farm in south central Wisconsin. We've got 45 cows that we milk.
It's late afternoon in the green farmland of Wisconsin. The cows are coming in to be milked. The calves are waiting to be fed. Farmers here work long, hard days. Many families struggle to pay their bills and keep their farms. Many fail. That's why Francis and other farmers started Scenic Central, a cooperative that helps them earn better prices for their milk.
If your neighbor can't do something on his own, you go and help him with it. That's certainly one of the ideas behind Scenic Central. The individuals themselves can't better their lot, but together they can.
Earning a little more for milk helps to ease the strain, but more important, these farmers have a new confidence and optimism about the future.
One of the main things that Scenic Central has done is to give them a little bit of hope.
Today, 1 in 10 families lives in poverty, but by working together, the picture of poverty can change. For easy ways you can help, visit povertyusa.org. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.
You work hard for your money. Don't you want your money to work hard for you? Contact the Warwick Valley Financial Advisors at 845-981-7300 for our Search for Income and find out what's available to you.
This is Dave Dirks, outdoor columnist for the Times Herald Record. Join me Saturday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. for the Dirks Outdoors radio show. Each week, I'll have outdoor personalities from a variety of outdoor sports. That's the Dirks Outdoors show, Saturday mornings right here on WTBQ.
WTBQ.
And we're back. We do have a winter alert. We'd like to announce that the Warwick Food Pantry, located at the Warwick United Methodist Church, will be closed this evening due to inclement weather.
That was very good.
You like that?
That was very good.
That was very good.
You should do the school closings.
I'm impressed. I need a better
Frank,
voice.
can you give her the school closings to do from now on?
You got to do it. The Warwick Food Pantry, located. I should come up with a different kind of voice for stuff like that.
Yeah, well, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and do like the reporters do, and they make faces when
We did have a question come in. Somebody wanted to know what a flag lot was. So, a flag lot. Now you got to get a mental picture going in your head. It's a long, narrow driveway that goes up, and then picture the shape of a flag. So that long driveway goes up and then leads to a piece of property that's like.
So it looks more like a flagpole with a flag on it.
Correct.
Yes.
And
There
the
you go.
access,
Thank you for
the
that
access
clarification.
to the lot is over the flagpole,
Yes.
which brings you to the lot.
On the pole.
And I think part of the question was one of access and shared
Access and maintenance.
Right. That can be any
depends.
number of ways. It really depends on what's in the actual deed for that lot.
You could have two flags back to back.
Right,
You could have
correct.
2 flags back to back.
Facing opposite ways. I wish you could see Janine's visual that she's giving us.
And you'd share
We
the
really need
driveway.
to do a
Each
podcast.
person goes,
This is radio, Janine. It's not
Yeah.
television. They can't see you.
Yeah, you have a face for radio. That's what I've been told.
you've been told that about me?
No.
The issue.
Would I ever tell you that?
Yes.
Fight nice, kids.
Yeah.
The issue is one of access, and it really depends on what's in the deed. Whether or
Yeah.
not you share that with someone would be the issue. And if there's other lots that have access, then it would be a shared driveway or an easement situation where the other individuals on the road or on that shared flagpole, so to speak, would be responsible for maintaining a portion of that. If you own it all, yourself, then that's not the case. They do deed out when they do subdivisions, lots such
Yep.
as this, to get access to lots that are behind something that fronts on a public road.
Right.
So
they
that's
can subdivide and be
basically
able to build another home
so
on
it's,
it.
Correct.
It's basically, we'd have to see which lot you're talking about.
right. And it really depends on what is in the deed, whether or not it's going to have any issues that go along with access. But that's the definition and nature of a flag lot.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, so we hope we answered your question. If you have any other questions, you feel free to call. You can talk to us. We're okay, 651-1110. But getting back
You
to
can
the
talk to
short
Mike
sales-
at least. I don't know about Janine.
Yeah.
Getting
Janine bites.
No,
let's go to we were talking about the buyers in the short sales. We were talking about the buyers in the short sales, and just from a mortgage perspective, these guys are cracking up.
All right, stop.
Excuse me. So from a mortgage perspective, for these buyers, these short sales.
All right, so the process.
It gets a
yes.
little. Well, it's just time that you're waiting. So we go
Some
through
of
the
it's your
normal
fault.
process
Can I
on
just
our
say-
side.
Can I say some of it's like the mortgage lender's fault? Because right away they're like, oh, you got to lock in your rate. They tell the buyer they have to lock in a
never.
rate. And then
I would never lock in someone's rate until I have the approval letter in my hand.
Yeah, but there are people that do that. And I'm like, what were you thinking?
But that becomes a problem sometimes, Mike, to be honest, because the approval letters that we get sometimes are only for 30 days.
Yes.
No. That's different, though. Locking in versus keeping a commitment
A float
current.
commitment current. Okay,
Exactly.
That's fine.
So what happens is when we issue a commitment, right, it will say that it's subject to these particular items, right? Well, it also has expiration dates of assets, pay stubs, things, a credit report, things of that nature, right? So as long as we keep those things current, so that the client keeps sending in the updated pay stubs and sending in the updated asset statements, and their financial picture is not changing, we have to update the credit report. So these are things that we keep up with,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it could take a year.
And it could
So
take a
you
year.
need-
I
yeah,
have
I get
two
that.
that I dealt with. One is actually still going on from October of 2012. Okay, that we're still waiting. A beautiful house. It was a great offer. I don't know why the bank is holding it up for so long, but
Do you
anyway,
know sometimes
we
the
keep it
file
going.
just sits there, literally just
I'm
sits there.
sure-
Nobody
I'm
even
sure it
touches
does.
it, and
I'm
then
sure it does.
we're calling up. We're like, why is this not moving forward? Well, let me
It's
look
absolutely
into it. They
insane.
didn't
Or they
do a thing with
restaff
it.
and they send it to someone else, or they
Yeah,
service
that
release
person-
it and give
yeah.
it to a different
And then we have to
servicer,
start all over
and we have to
again.
start from scratch, or they close the file because we didn't send them the updated form with the different date that's on the bottom. That's the same form. There's no
by
common
like
sense.
Saturday
is the
night,
problem.
7:00. They give us deadlines sometimes, and I'm like, really? You want this when?
Well, their deadline is never, and our deadline is 24
Yes.
hours after they ask for it.
Yes.
So
Yeah, but the
little unfair.
a little unfair.
So the biggest issue is this: when a buyer wants to make an offer on a short sale property, there's a process and procedure that we request, and that really, if you're a buyer and you're buying a home, there's risk whether you're buying a short sale or just a traditional sale. There's always going to be some kind of risk. So with a short sale, we ask that they do a home inspection, and they go to contract. Show that you're committed to the deal. Look, we're committed to getting the short sale approved. I mean, and that's no easy task. So if we're willing to do all that work, then that buyer needs to be willing to stick it out and let us do our job. Right, Mike?
In general, we build into our contracts for a short sale a 120-day period.
Which isn't enough.
That I ask, it's really not enough.
It's not even close.
I'd like to expand it to 6
Traditional
months,
sales that take
but I
3
meat
months.
resistance from other attorneys, quite honestly.
3 and
They
4
don't
months, yeah.
want to lock in, but I need to know that a buyer is going to at least stick around
Right,
for a period of
certain
time
period
to
of
give
time.
us the initial opportunity to submit all of the documents to the bank. Where it goes from there
Right.
is anyone's guess, for all the reasons that we've been talking about. But we need cooperation from the seller. We need them to give us the documents in a timely fashion and to help us help them.
Most people
a lot of
do.
times. Most people do.
Most people
There's
do,
some
I
that
have
don't.
to
There's
say.
some that just walk away and expect everything to be done for them.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
no, most people do. We're okay with that. It's the buyers.
we
now.
need buyers to stick around, and it's not an easy thing. You have to have a pretty thick skin and want a house pretty badly to wait for it for a year or a year and a
Absolutely.
half or never,
Absolutely.
because I've had deals that have failed where we are never going to be able to sell that house. I've met with 2 clients in the past 2 weeks about bankruptcies because we're so far vastly apart on numbers with present offers and what the bank wants that there's no way it's going to ever fly.
That's crazy. I still don't understand that. I mean, you have a really good buyer. I mean, I'm not coming up with numbers. I'm not fighting the value just because I want to get the sale done. I'm giving them this closed within the last 6 months. And they're all comparable. I mean, 2 bedrooms, 1 bed, whatever it is. It's the same unit. So if they all closed at X, why are you asking $35,000 more? It makes no sense. And my client, he's like, what are they doing? He don't even understand it. He's like, it makes no sense. So I says, you know what? Get on the phone. Sometimes it helps to have the client speak to the bank. Sometimes it doesn't.
I'm sure it doesn't more often than it does.
Doesn't.
We can tell stories.
It doesn't, especially if they're going to start cursing at the bank, which I've had this one guy do. He started cursing it. I had the short sale.
I've cursed at banks, Janine.
I do. I don't. You know what I tell them when I'm
On a
on the
fairly
phone with them?
regular basis?
I get on the phone with them and I say to them, look, I'm trying really hard to remain professional. That's my line. I tell them, I'm trying really hard to remain professional, but don't draw.
You say that to me when we're on the phone too.
No, I don't. But it's really, it's not easy. But so the thing of it is if you're a buyer, we expect you to do your home inspection just like you would for any other sale. Because maybe
Well,
something's
what buyers
gonna
need
come
to
up.
realize is that they are going to have to put some skin in the game to make this offer and get into contract and really, if they want to go through with it,
Yes.
right?
Right now, though, we're having a tough time. I have one where the buyers want to do a home inspection. The house is winterized. We had to winterize it because the pipes burst and, frozen burst. So you come up with all other obstacles, that you have to in the wintertime. So it's not easy.
These are very fluid things, and I can't tell you the number of issues that come up during the pendency of that 1 year or 6 month or whatever it is period that sellers are having to deal with, buyers are having to make decisions on.
It's tough, and it's not just the house. We have sellers sometimes that live in one of the cities, and they have a water bill or something else that comes up that they didn't pay, and now it's a judgment on the house. You can have taxes. We have somebody who's got a tax lien on their house, so now they're not going to. We can't sell the house with a lien on it.
Right.
So now who's going to pay that lien? The seller doesn't have the money.
Right.
So it's a lot of creative.
I have had situations where I've had a short sale approved. I will not tell you the name of the 2 different lenders. One works with the military, which
Oh, I thought he
offends
was
me.
gonna say-
The second lender works with the military. And the first lender was the primary mortgage. We got approvals on both because of language in the second approval letter. Or in the first, I apologize, in the first approval letter, the second lender would not allow us to close unless that language was removed from that letter. The first lender said, we're not removing the language from that letter, and the deal died
Oh my God.
on an approved deal because of semantic language in an approval letter. It was absolutely
That is
infuriating.
unbelievable.
And my client is former retired military. And
What a shame.
it's just,
We are talking government, though.
we are. We are.
That's
Sorry.
crazy. No, hey.
Which we will not talk
So
about.
yeah, exactly. Different show.
So it's tough. It's not easy. But so if anybody has any questions on short sale, they can reach Mike where?
O'Keefe and McCann, 25 Main Street in Goshen, and the phone number is 845-615-8500. And we have offices in New Windsor and in Port Jervis.
Yeah.
And I also saw that you do other things besides real estate. So if you have some questions, please call Michael over in Goshen.
Thank you.
And I'm Michael Gianetto, licensed mortgage loan originator with Residential Home Funding. You can reach me at 845-496-0836. And thank you for joining us.
And I'm Janine Panarelli, licensed real estate broker and owner of Panarelli Realty in Goshen. My number is 651-1776. And you can like us on Facebook. Even if you don't want to call in, send us a message on Facebook. We'll read it on air next week. All right. Have a good
warm
week.
and dry.
Be careful.
See you next week.